All right, let's talk about a guy whose life was so predictable you could set your watch to it. But here's the crazy part. His ideas, they were anything but predictable. They were a bomb that went off in the world of philosophy. We're diving into the cinematic life of Immanuel Kant.
So right there, that's the big puzzle we're going to piece together today. I mean, how does a person who lives his incredibly disciplined, almost boring life come up with ideas so radical they literally create a storm in how we think about, well, everything? To figure that out, we've got to start with that famous routine of his.
So, our journey starts way back in 18th century Königsberg. And believe me, to get a handle on Kant's game-changing ideas, you first have to wrap your head around his life, which was, for lack of a better word, like clockwork.
Okay, get this. This wasn't just some to-do list. This was his entire life, mapped out. Up at 5 a.m. every single day. No snooze button, then lectures, writing, and then the big one, his daily walk. Always at 3:30 in the afternoon. Now, you might think this sounds like a prison, right? But for Kant, it was the complete opposite. This super rigid structure was actually the launch pad that gave his mind the freedom to explore the very edges of reality.
And I'm not exaggerating about the precision. The story, and it's a famous one, is that people in his town of Königsberg literally set their watches by his afternoon walk. He was that punctual. Think about that for a second. He wasn't just a guy with a good schedule, he was basically a walk-in clock, the town's symbol of perfect order.
So where did this guy come from? Let's rewind a bit to his early days. Because long before he became this clockwork philosopher, there was just this kid with a spark, a powerful, unstoppable curiosity.
Yeah, just try to imagine it. A dimly lit room, probably smelling like old paper, books, and manuscripts just piled everywhere. And there's a young Immanuel Kant totally lost in his work. He's not just doing his homework here. He's on a mission, completely diving into the world of ideas with this burning need to question absolutely everything.
And his curiosity was all over the place, in the best way possible. It wasn't just dusty old philosophy books. I mean, look at what you'd find on his desk. A globe, a telescope, sketches of human anatomy, tools, and yeah, stacks and stacks of manuscripts. This tells you everything. He wanted to know how it all worked, from the planets up there to our own bodies right here. A true mind of the Enlightenment.
So naturally, all that curiosity pulls him into the university, not just to learn, but to teach. And this is the period where he starts laying the groundwork, really becoming the architect of a whole new way of thinking.
Apparently, in the classroom, Kant was just magnetic. Not in a loud, showy way. He'd be up there filling the chalkboards with these incredible diagrams, mapping out concepts like reason and intuition. He grabbed his students' attention with just the sheer force and clarity of his ideas. He wasn't just lecturing them, he was rewiring how their minds worked.
And a huge part of his whole project comes down to one word: critique. Now, when we hear that word, we think of criticizing something, right? Finding what's wrong with it. But for Kant, that's not it at all. A critique was more like an investigation. Imagine you're an architect surveying a building. He wanted to do that for the human mind, to figure out what it's built on, how it's put together, and crucially, what its limits are.
Well, that investigation was about to lead him to his biggest fight yet, a lonely, epic struggle to put it all down on paper and write the one book that would flip philosophy on its head.
And this is where things get really interesting. He basically goes quiet for 10 years, stops publishing, just thinks. So you have to ask, right? What on earth was the problem he was trying to solve? What kind of question is so huge that it takes a whole decade of silence to even begin to answer it?
Well, it was basically the heavyweight championship of philosophy. In one corner, you had the thinkers who said, we only know what our senses tell us. In the other corner, you had the ones who said, nope, pure logic is the only way to find truth. And philosophy was basically stuck. Kant's big move? He said, you're both kind of right, but you're also both wrong. He didn't just want to build a bridge between them, he wanted to show that our minds are actually the architects of our reality, a total game changer.
And after all that silent struggle, this is what emerged. His masterpiece, The Critique of Pure Reason. This wasn't just a book with some new ideas. It was a book that completely rewrote the rules of the game.
I mean, you can just picture it, can't you? Him alone in his study late at night, the only light from a single candle dancing across these mountains of paper. It's the perfect image for what he was doing. One person wrestling with the biggest questions there are, using that small flame of reason to fight back the darkness. So, after the intellectual storm he unleashed with the critique, we come to the final chapter of his life. This is where we see Kant looking back, reflecting on the universe he had just remapped.
And here he is in his old age. Physically, you can see he's frail, but there's this incredible peace about him. And why not? He'd done it. This man, who barely ever left his hometown, had managed to change the entire world, right from his little study. It's just incredible when you think about it.
This quote is probably his most famous, and it just says it all. Two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe: the starry sky above me and the moral law within me. It's beautiful, right? It really boils down his whole philosophy. He was fascinated by these two incredible things: the massive, orderly universe out there and the powerful sense of morality we all feel in here. Those were his two true norths.
So here's where we land. Kant's amazing contribution was to basically draw a map of the human mind and say, this is as far as we can know for sure. But in drawing that line, he also made us stare right into the huge, mysterious unknown that lies on the other side. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. What do you think is out there, beyond the limits of what we can ever truly know?